Tip. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just let the cat out of the bag, as in I just posted the media release in our chat for this call today. So you do have what you need today, but we really hope that you'll stay with us to hear all firsthand from Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc Roseanne Cashmere today, as she really delves into the why we're choosing to host a special event on September 30th. So today I'm just going to walk you through what we're going to do. So we're going to first I'm going to walk you through the agenda right now, a little bit of housekeeping, and then we're going to go over to Secwépemc Roseanne Cashmere. We also have Councillor Jeanette Jules joining us as well today. We're going to share, Secwépemc Cashmere is going to speak. We're going to share a little bit of a video. We have another awesome little clip. Some of these things we are going to make available as well as B-roll, as well as we have some visual assets, some lovely photos that we're wanting to share with you today. And so I just wanted to make mention of all of that today for you. So with that, so we're going to go Secwépemc Roseanne. We're going to show some videos. They're very, very short, like a minute and a half or so or less. And then we're going to go into questions and answers for Secwépemc Roseanne Cashmere. And just a gentle reminder that we are going to ask that you identify who you are and which media outlet, and then get your question. We're going to go with one question per person first, and then if we can have time, we'll go for additional questions. So with that, again, it's my pleasure to introduce Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc Roseanne Cashmere joining us today to speak about an exciting event for September 30th. So, Secwépemc Roseanne. Oh, just 1 second, Secwépemc. We just want to get the audio going here for you. So we are doing this socially distanced, so that we're just really aware of all the protocols. So we have Secwépemc coming in from another location. We're just going to make sure her audio is okay. One moment, bear with us. Secwépemc, go ahead.
All right, so Kuxjacham, I'm really very honored and happy to be here with all of you today. I know that Rissal had just shared that she'd share the press release with everyone, and so I could walk you through the press release. And so basically,
I'm so sorry, Secwépemc. If you will, and I forgot to mention one tiny and very important housekeeping note. One is that we will make this recording available to whomever wishes it. And Secwépemc, if you want to the press release is already out there, but I would much prefer that you walk through the messaging of why we're doing this. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for that. Definitely could do that. You know, this is very important, a very, very important year. We know that with the Truth and Reconciliation, we know that there's 10 principles that have been guided by those that follow through with reconciliation. And, first and foremost, reconciliation requires, sustained public education and dialogue, including youth engagement, and it's about education. So this is the very first Canadian National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, September the 30th. It is even made even more meaningful by the confirmation of the missing children from the, most meaningful from the Kamloops Indian Residential School, found in unmarked graves on the grounds. Now that the cries of the missing children have been heard, it is time to show them love, honor, and respect. They were children, robbed of their families and their childhood. And now we need to give them the dignity that they never had. We thought about the significance of the occasion, and we reflected on how to invite people to participate meaningfully in a culturally grounded way, connected by time and activity, while grappling with the limitations due to COVID-19 and public safety measures. The confirmation of the Kamloops Indian Residential School missing children has impacted people locally, regionally, nationally, and even globally. There has been an outpouring of sympathy and collective grief. So we wanted to create a moment to share an important aspect of our traditions and how we will deal with grief, loss, and healing. This is a chance for people of all ages and all walks of life to honor the missing Indian children of the residential school throughout North America. Tk'emlúps is calling upon people around the world to gather safely, to drum and sing for all the missing children of Indian residential schools on September 30th at 2:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We chose 2:15 p.m. Pacific Time as 2:15 was that number that made a ripple around the world at the end of May of this year about the truth of missing unmarked graves at the sites of former Indian residential schools, as it revealed the truth of the historic mistreatment of Indigenous children. The time was chosen as a way to honor those who are currently in the Tk'emlúps caretakership. Since the news, since the news about the 2:15 at the Kamloops, more children have been confirmed at other Indian residential schools across North America. At the Secwépemc, we know that our work has only just begun. We're offering the Secwépemc Honor Song to unite us in the honoring and the healing for the missing Indian residential school children, their families, and their home communities. We have made the song accessible through an easy-to-follow teaching video that we invite the world to learn. The song is available through the Secwépemc social media channels, as well as on the dedicated webpage, https://tkemloops.ca/drum. Even though we're unable to gather physically in great numbers due to COVID-19, we want to encourage a sense of unity and engagement. So we ask everyone to join in drumming with us at 2:15 Pacific Time. We look forward to bearing witness to people joining us from Secwépemc, our homelands, to around the world, connected an honor song for the children in our care, as well as for those laying to rest in other areas. We invite you to share the song, to teach it, and to record it in schools, workplaces, and in your living rooms. It's time to honor the children and the unrelenting spirits of these ancestors. It's time to drum for the healing of the Indian residential school survivors who carry the burden of knowing of where the children were buried, and to drum for the healing of the families and communities whose children did not come home. Secwépemc elders have said that it is the children that are going to bring us together, and we want to make the world a better place for children everywhere and give them hope, assurances that every child matters. Join us virtually on September 30th at 2:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's time to drum for the children.
Pardon me. As a member of the Secwépemc Nation, with family members who have gone, I lift my hands to you, Cookbee. This is not a scripted part of this, but I'm not going to hide my emotion or the opportunity today to say that it is meaningful for people to join us at 2:15 at September 30th, because we want people to truly understand what's going on and situate them. We have created a video that's going out to the world. And so I thank Cookby for being brave and getting on a 4-foot riser so that she could be situated fully in front of the place of where so many atrocities happened to Indigenous children at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. So we're going to share that very short video with you now. Kukshachim. Whew.
Join us on September the 30th at 2:15 p.m. Pacific to drum for the children. On this very first Canadian National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, I invite the world to gather safely to drum and sing for the missing children of Indian residential schools. It's time to honor the children and the unrelenting spirit of these ancestors. It's time to drum for the healing of the Indian residential school survivors who carried the burden of knowing where the children were buried. To drum for the healing of the families and the communities whose children did not come home. Help us shine a light on truth, the pursuit of justice and peace, and healing for all affected by these beloved missing children. At Secwépemc, the drum is central to our cultural expression and ceremonies. We offer comfort and peace to our loved ones at gatherings when we lift our voices and drumsticks to sing our songs. Join us. We invite you to learn the Secwépemc Honor Song so that we may sing and drum in unity at 2:15 p.m. Pacific on September the 30th. Make a plan to gather safely on September 30th. Take time to connect with others to learn the Secwépemc Honor Song. Be heard, be seen on behalf of the children, and be sure to share with us how you will participate. It's time to drum for the children.
So again, thank you so much, Cookby, for one, being willing to stand on a 4-foot riser in front of the Kamloops Indian Residential School the other week for us. That's a video that is on our dedicated web page that we'll share in the chat right now. It's also part of the media release. On that dedicated web page at the bottom, you're also going to find some visual assets of the beautiful drum that you see in this photo right here. It's a beautiful drum that was offered to Cookby Roseanne Cashmere. It says "Every Child Matters" on it, and it's being struck. So for those of you in print media or for social, your online media presence as well, for your outlets, we have that available. Because we wanted to make sure people could follow along and learn the song, we also had 2 members of the Secwépemc Nation sing and record the Secwépemc Honor Song, and we included the vocables. What they're doing in this is they're only singing what we refer to as 2 push-ups or twice through. Generally, we do more than twice. You can sing 4. There is actually no limit. When we're at a gathering, we can sing many, 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 many times, but we just want to show how it's taught and how people switch off on the lead because it's a call and response song. So with that, we're going to go to the video that is also on our webpage. And thank you. Thank you so much. Again, we really appreciate both Sunny and Julianne taking the time to record that song. There's a lot of work happening right now in Tk'emlúps in recording our songs. So at this time, that's the end of our official presentation. So we're going to open the floor up to questions where you can raise your hand. You can drop your questions in the chat. What we're going to ask every single time, though, whether it's in the chat or it is a video, or you're directly asking the question, that you please identify yourself by name as well as your outlet, please. So with that, we're going to go over to media, and we're happy to answer your questions today. And I should say we do have on the line both Cookbee Roseanne, and we'll bring her back up, and we will also go over to include Councillor Jeanette Jules, if that's possible. Yeah. So just to clarify, Cookbee Roseanne Casimir, as you all know, has been the spokesperson this entire time. She is, as Cookbee, or chief spokesperson for the community of Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc, and has been the lead spokesperson on the Kamloops Indian Residential School. The portfolio holder is Councillor Jeanette Jules. Some of you may have met her in the past as well. We really appreciate that she was able to join us today. So, but with that, I'm going to, again, if you can raise your hand for any questions, we will go to you if you have questions, or pop it in the chat, either or. I'm monitoring both. While we're just waiting for those questions, Cookbee, I thought we would just talk about the little bit of the reality that we've been going through around the COVID-19 measures, because I know on July 15th, the last time that we had a major media event, we had sent out an invitation to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and also National Chief accepted an invitation to come and see us. And then we had a shutdown of COVID measures to 50 people. I see the question for you, Victor, but we had 50 people inside or 100 people outside. We just, in the past, I think it's 72 hours now, just had a major change. I know we're looking right now at what is the possibilities in organizing around any type of external event or outdoor event, but we don't have news right now because we're just dealing with all those changes. Is that correct? I just wanted to just invite you to speak to that a little bit.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. You know, with the COVID parameters, our number one priority was health and safety and following those provincial health orders. And, you know, most recently we have, you know, been shared with that, you know, we could expand on the gathering on an outdoor, and there's a lot of different parameters that are following in place. We'll be working with First Nations Health to, you know, determine how that will look because of the new parameters with the barcode and proving that you have your vaccinations, and how that is going to be working and, you know, moving forth. First and foremost, you know, we're going to be, you know, still working on some of what and how that could look, but I do know that there will be, you know, a few of us that will be in the Arbor at 2:15 to be drumming the honor song and honoring the children and honoring our survivors.
Thank you so much, Cookbee. And again, as things progress, we will definitely be providing updates, but you can understand that this is all very recent news, interesting news as well. We do understand that there's this is, as Cookbee said, this is the very first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We hear and feel that within the community of Kamloops to Secwépemc, as well as our nation, the Secwépemc Nation, as well as all the other communities affected. There was over 40 communities, and we know as far as Yukon, Alberta, and even Washington State, as you've mentioned in past media events, Cookbee. So we know there's a great interest. We're just also making sure that we're to do anything that we're doing it safe. So with that, I'm going to go. I see that it'll be Victor, then Levi, and then Adam. So Victor, can you please identify yourself. So I know your name is Victor, and which Victor Kazar, I think. And then if you could just identify which media outlet, ask your question.
I'm with Radio NL. By the way, Roseanne. I'm wondering, with something like this planning or worldwide on the 30th, how long it, in planning at this point to do something like this, not just take it Canada, take it, around the world, and I'm not sure if updates as to how things are progressing when it comes to discovery and
So I'm not sure how much Cookby heard of that, because I know on my end it was very hard to hear. Victor, perhaps you could try writing your question in the chat, because it was every third word that was broken or garbled, unfortunately. So I'm gonna Victor, we're gonna take your question, but if you could just write it in the chat, that'd be better. We're gonna go over to you. We're gonna go over to you, Levi. And Levi, I know who you are, but can you identify yourself for everybody else, please?
Of course, yeah. I'm expecting this sound is about the same as Victor experienced.
No, it's good.
Oh, is it? Okay. So Levi Landry with infonews.ca in Kamloops. The entire country was rocked by the first announcement from Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc, and of course other communities followed and found some of the same grave sites. But following that, the elections coming up, I'm wondering if there's been enough talks or policy proposals from federal leaders in this election.
Cookby, I know you've been answering this question fairly often, we invite you to please respond.
Yes, no, thank you for that very important question. I know in the media there has been a lot of headlines, but I really truly believe that there definitely needs to be more dialogue. Definitely more dialogue when it comes to, the process and working together and, looking at the funding protocols as well, provincially and federally. And I know that there's a lot of work to do, and we have a long path forward. And, I think regardless of who is elected, we'll be working in collaboration and with that path forward.
Thank you so much, Cookby. I also know that when we were looking at those questions coming in, as you had made mention in other interviews, that there is a long, clear list of urgent action items, whether it's what you started off from the top, from the Truth and Reconciliation, to the calls to justice for the murdered missing Indigenous women, girls, or two-spirit and non-binary relatives, to the drinking water advisories out there, to just basic public policy that does not make sense. So, and that continues to, unfortunately, as we have borne witness with healthcare, whether it's access to healthcare or the systemic racism in healthcare, that all those things have been brought up. We'll now go over, here's Victor's question. He said he's been having computer issues all week. He's wondering how long, something that has this been planned to try and get people around the world for drumming on September 30th instead of just people in BC or in Canada. Also, is there any so we'll take that first question, then we'll take your second question, Victor. So how long has something like this been planned, and to try and get people around the world to drumming on September 30th? And I'll turn that over to you, Cookby.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that question. I know that, initially, one of my council members, Councillor Marie Baptiste, has always spoken passionately about the drum and the connection to Mother Earth and the connection with the Spirit and raising and lifting, songs and prayers up to the Creator. And, that is something that we've, always embraced, close to our hearts. And so I know that, with the COVID parameters, we also, we're looking at, what we could be doing for Truth and Reconciliation Day for September the 30th, and, how we could do it safely and moving forward. And so knowing that passion and the importance of it, and also with her being a survivor as well, and it's something that we wanted to work with and how we're going to be doing that. And also with, in light of, the findings of May 27th and how we can incorporate that together, those discussions have now led to honoring the children, honoring the survivors, and honoring all those that have been impacted from our preliminary findings to other First Nation communities also going through that same process. And so it's something how we could be connected, just like Orange Shirt Day. It's about that same process and sharing in that song. It's about being unified and in solidarity. And it's something that we could do right across the nation.
Thank you so much, Cook Bee. And as the worker bee who was delighted to work with you, and Councillor Marie Baptiste, as well as the rest of your hardworking council, I have to admit, Levi, Victor, we were quite frustrated because every time we thought we had a way forward, in August we were working within community asking the question of what could come forward for September 30th. Knowing that the 2:15 p.m. drumming would be part of it, to see those COVID safety protocols come up, to see all of that melt away, only to have it reopen up 9 working days before or 10 working days before September 30th. It's a weird thing to grapple with, and I'm so impressed with everybody's desire to help push this forward. So we were really trying to figure, because we were very aware, particularly here locally and regionally, that people really want to support something, and that's been the part that we've been grappling with. So the other question that Victor raised, and I just heard from somebody else that was exactly what they were going to ask as well, and that is there any kind of update on, and we don't use the word discovery, we use the word confirmation, Victor, because as was well explained, the findings, the confirmation of the children, as was presented by Sarah Bolio, the ground penetrating radar specialist, she always said we didn't need the science because we had the knowing from the Indian residential school survivors. It was just a confirmation with science to the exact location. But it was the residential school survivors who, in fact, indicated where to look. And it was with the science of the ground penetrating radar that we were able to pinpoint the locations of where those little ones are laying to rest. So again, we much prefer the word confirmation than discovery, because there was always that knowing. So is there any kind of update on the confirmation and how things have progressed since the update we got when the results released earlier? So any movement since July 15th is basically what he's asking, Cookbee.
Thank you for that question. There definitely has been a lot of movement since July the 15th. We have been working with various levels of government and also with legal, and how we can, look at that path forward. We know that there's a lot of work when it comes to the archaeological processes. I guess I better take a step back. With us at the Kamloops Secwépemc, we do have our laws in place when it comes to archaeological remains, when it comes to those processes moving forward. And so we have been meeting and have met with RCMP. We've also met with the bishop. We've had those connections and those discussions. We've also had discussions with legal and with Minister Eby, as well as Minister Lametti, and working towards steps in looking at how we can create that path forward, because this has been very traumatic and this has really impacted so many. So we want to make sure that we have a process that's moving forward, that's going to be recognizing all the law, as well as, respecting our law. And so we were looking at a UN locateur and how that could work with us. And so we know that with the news that has been released, one has been announced. And so right now we're just in the discussions of who that will be and how they'll be working in collaboration with us as with the Kamloops to Secwépemc, as well as other First Nations, and what that path forward is going to be looking like, and also in collaboration with the Canadian legal entities as well. We also, since then, have had the appointments of Charlene Belliot and also Lydia as well. And so both of them will be working with us and other First Nations and First Nation hospitals as well. So I believe there's like 21. So there's a lot of work that is being done. Mid-October, we do have a hybrid event that is going to be scheduled. We're going to be the host community, but that's going to be held here. And that is, you know, what that path forward is going to be looking like, sharing the information that we have to date and what some of those steps forward could be shared with other communities as well. I know that we have a lot of work on the go, and we also have more GPR work that needs to get done. And so we know that this is going to be a process that's going to probably take years to move forward on. We know that we're just probably within the very early steps and stages of what that path forward is going to look like. So there'll be more information that's going to be shared and more of those steps that are coming forward.
Cooks Chacha, thank you so much. Cookbee, we have another question in the chat. It was sent to me directly. And I'm just going to say that the first part of the question is way ahead of where we are, because it was asking about the next steps after searching and identifying all the remains in unmarked graves. As you just heard Cookbee allude to about the mid-October meeting, we're still in that non-invasive stage of investigation with the science, as well as the confirmation of the knowing with survivors. If I understand correctly, Cookbee, we are also in need of those student attendance records as well, so that as you stated in July, that we're not re-traumatizing Indian residential school survivors unnecessarily when we can do that good work. And that's part of what legal counsel has brought up. So I'm just going to remove that first part of the question, Sen, because it's a little bit ahead of where we're at this time. There is a question though about, we have an election, it's just on Monday the 20th, and the question is, what do you expect the new government after the federal election? Will the Indigenous communities join hands to ask for more sovereignty and self-governance from the Canadian government?
It's a very good question. So I know that when we're looking at, working with whoever is going to be elected, there has to be a clear mandate of the continued government-to-government relationships and dialogues and, actions, and what that path forward is going to look like, regardless. And, for us, we know that when we're looking at what the Kamloops to Secwépemc is and where we're at, is looking at to ensure that those relationships move forward in a good way. It's about making sure that, we have fair access and treatment too when it comes to all those laundry lists of topics that were brought up when it comes to infrastructure, water, roadway, those types of things, and housing, opioid crisis, and, the list does go on. But when we were looking at reconciliation, it's about honoring these truths. It's about moving forward and, sharing in and moving forward how that is going to be looking like. Like only we as First Nations can clearly, define what reconciliation is for us and as a community. But with the government, we want them to be working with us and hearing these truths and acknowledge, more than just acknowledging these truths, but working with us in a way that's going to really, truly lead that path forward in a very positive way. We need to heal now. We need to work in a good way for all our future generations and our children. We know that when we look at and hear the stories from our survivors and those that were impacted from their residential school experiences and the traumas that they've affiliated upon them, right from being taken from their homes and taken to the residential school and stripped of their identities and gone through the traumas that they've experienced. And, this year came back, back in 2006 through the residential school. But when we look at from now till here and where we are with our preliminary findings and with Truth and Reconciliation, there is so much traumas that have come to light again, so many wounds that have been opened, and then so many individuals not even realizing the impacts of the residential school. And for many, it was like they had no idea that we have gone and endured such traumas. And so working at these different levels is so important that we continue having these dialogues, continue looking at how we can create that path forward in a good way. And so, the first mark was September 30th, acknowledging that. And to me, that is a really, really good first step. And it's about acknowledging orange shirt and what that means. It's about looking at a way that we can all be united, standing in solidarity and moving forward. So I think with this federal election, there definitely has to be more dialogue. There has to be more communication, more inclusivity, more government to government tables, but most importantly, it's also going to be bringing the voices to those various levels.
Jachim Cookby, just wanted to point out something that we just put in the chat. So I really want to thank Lee's Music here in Kamloops for helping us out today with this hybrid media event, because we had video and everything else going on, and Cookby on another location. We wanted to really make sure that we're giving you everything that you needed. If you want access to the recording, whether it's for audio or audio and visual, please contact Mike. The email is in the chat. Also, I wanted to point out that I have aside for you B-roll, and the link is in the PDF of the media release that we put at the top of the page, and in that on that Google Drive, you'll be able to access B-roll, one of Cookby drumming in front of the Kamloops Indian Residential School with that beautiful drum actually that's behind her head right now. And then also we have the B-roll of Sunny and Julianne singing the Secwépemc Otter song. If you want to pull just the audio, or you want to have the audio and the visual of Sunny and Julianne singing the Secwépemc Otter song, it is there for you. And we did it so that it's clean. There's no captioning on the bottom, no karaoke style of the vocables listed at the bottom. It's just clean, easy for you to grab so that you have those videos. Again, a reminder for those of you who are in print or online and need more of a static visual, we do have 2 lovely photos of the drum being hit, both orange drum with Every Child Matters on it, as well as the Tk'emlúps drum being hit. And if you go to the dedicated webpage, the tk'emlúps.ca/drum, those are both able to be downloaded straight from the website at a high resolution. So we're going to go back to some questions here. So one is about the BC Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, Murray Rankin, told us that the findings at Tk'emlúps was a guiding document for other bands in the province. How many bands in BC and Canada have contacted you seeking support and advice or something similar, and what do you tell them when they do reach out? If I may, Cookby, I'm just going to jump in here to talk about the webinar that you mandated us to co-host with the Canadian Archaeological Association and the Institute for Indigenous and Prairie Archaeology. Is that on July 22nd, so just a week after the findings were announced, we had over I think it was 170 people participate in from across Canada, so we could talk about remote sensing and grave detection. So we had a great participation. I know that Cookbee, you're very often speaking in many forums. You spoke at the First Nations Leadership Council. They had a special day in August, I think it was the 22nd of August, where you led a conversation with Councillor Jeanette Jules, our legal counsel Don Worm, and others to speak directly about and also Manager Ted Godfredson of the Culture and Language Revitalization Department at Tk'emlúps, each sharing about the experience, a very matter-of-fact reality of the work that we're doing. So I know that you have participated in much larger forums here to date. And I think, I don't know of any others that I may have missed, Cookbee, but I'm just going to pop it back over to you for any clarity on that part about the communities seeking advice. I know that you also mentioned about mid-October as well. So if you want to just go back to that one too.
Sure, for sure. Very good question. We know that just with BC alone, there's 18 residential school sites. There's also 3 hospitals. And I know that with Charlene and Lydia both being appointed to working with First Nations, that's going to be leading to the mid-October dialogue session where we're going to be able to come together and to share and, for the Kamloops to share the steps that we've taken. And, I've spoken to many First Nations. I know Councillor Jeanette has spoken to many First Nations as well. Actually, a lot of my council and our language and culture department. And we've shared the first step has always been ceremony. No matter what we do within your community, because of the importance and the truths, has to be ceremony. And that's the number one thing, is we share that, and we also ensure that they're utilizing legitimate sources. We know that in the beginning, when we first were doing that GPR work with the preliminary findings, and people have heard that we've done 2 acres out of 160. Our phones were off the hook of everyone wanting to, provide that service, to complete the work and go through that process. And also the archaeological processes, as well as, DNA sampling and all the different types of work that could be, done. So, moving forward, we want to make sure that we share the work that we've done, that we share on those next steps and that path forward. And we share that we've had those conversations with the other First Nation communities. We've also shared information and had discussions with, when you look at all the parties that are involved, we've got the RCMP, we've got the Roman Catholic Church, we've also got, the Truth and Reconciliation. We've also got the, the various areas for accessing documents and working with legal to, be able to access that information. We have individuals that are doing the research and collecting and gathering the information as well and documenting. So there's a lot of work and a lot of steps that need to take place. And in each of those different areas, there's different protocols and different paths. We know that when we look at unmarked graves, that's not our grave site. Those are unmarked graves. So when we look at it, we want to make sure that every single step is followed with that utmost care, due diligence, respect, and honor, because we know that from the truth of our survivors, and that history, even from Maikia and family, there's many that did not come home, and there's no confirmation of where and how, and we want to go through that process, but we want to make sure that it's done carefully, it's done right, and is done with that honor and respect for those that have passed, but also for those that are still here with us today, for the families who want those answers. And so there's a lot of work, a lot of discussions and steps that need to be laid out.
Thank you so much, Cookbee, Cookschacham. And if you're wondering, you just had a little language lesson. Kia'a is grandmother in Secwépemc. Kia'a. Ba'a is grandfather. I love how we just slip in the language from time to time. And we're going to go to Christopher from Kamloops this week. At the July 15th press conference, ground penetrating radar expert Dr. Sarah Bolio of the University of Fraser Valley said the remains were referred to as probable burials until the excavation is done, though other experts concurred with her by saying they believe they are indeed likely human remains. And then their quote, with ground penetrating radar, we can never say definitively they are human remains until you excavate, which is why we need to pull back a little bit and say they're probable burials, but they're targets of interest. My question is, has any excavation been done to definitely confirm? Chris, there is some additional things that were part of what was the constellation of confirmation that Dr. Sarah Bolio looked at. Of course, until you dig into the ground, there is changes, but she did talk about the tooth that was found, the rib bone that was found, the other work that was done prior. So I think there's some of the context that you're missing from there. And as we started from the top with another question, we did already indicate that we've done non-evasive work to date. But between the confirmation of the knowing of the eyewitnesses, the Indian residential school survivors, to the past work the discoveries of the juvenile tooth and the rib bone, to the work that Dr. Sarah Bolio has done for us, we still stand with that knowing that it's indeed a sacred space of unmarked graves. Cookbee, anything else to add? And we're going to wrap up with the last question from Levi after this. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I think, the other part is the fact that when the news broke, when we shared our story on May 27th, so many people, our relations from everywhere, came to support, they came to mourn, they came to grieve. And yeah, our community never had that opportunity. And what we heard from members is we didn't hear and we didn't have that opportunity to grieve together as a community and come together as a community. So what we did is we worked with and through our language and culture department and with our elders, and we also with our 13 family had representatives within our community as well, and came up with a plan on how we can do that. And that was about bringing families together from the Kamloops to Secwépemc to be able to come together as a family unit, to come and mourn together and pray together and do ceremony together, on the grounds. And so we have very shy of 1,400 band members. So we wanted to ensure that we had that time for them to be able to come in and grieve. And knowing that this here is our area of responsibility, knowing that we have our current laws in place, knowing that these truths were here within the grounds, and wanting to come and do that ceremony was so crucially important for them. So, that was something that also took, much time. We're still not finished with that families coming in. I think we still have a few more family to come through. And we've also are looking at opening it up to, the other communities throughout Secwépemc, throughout the nation, and having them have the opportunity to bring in their elders and their survivors to come to the grounds as well. And so that has been taking place now over the summer, well, mostly the month of August until now. And even yesterday, I still receiving phone calls, and we've had so many that have been coming to our community to do exactly that. They want to come to mourn, to grieve, to honor those children. And they also want to come to, honor and support the community as well as the consultants and all those that have been impacted, and to come to a safe place and space. And so for, many, they've been coming to our monument to do exactly that. And that monument is so significant. One of our band member survivors from residential school, Ken Jensen, he, as part of his path forward and reconciliation and taking back his spirit and going through that process of, he put his residential school funds towards the monument that's now placed in front of the residential school. And for him, that was part of his legacy. That was a part of, honoring all those within the Kamloops that have been impacted. And, also he mentioned many throughout Secwépemc. But for him, this was extremely important, and to honor his experience and honor the survivors. And, he's now deceased. I know that we are doing a monument specifically for him. So when people come to the monument, they will honor and recognize him and his journey and what he's done to create that legacy moving forward. So when we're looking at the work, there's so much to do. And there's still so much more truth telling that needs to take place. And this is a journey that, is something that has not happened overnight. It's been like, for many years, it's been like it was forgotten and never really followed through. And, now we have science, we have technology, and we have our cultural protocols and processes, and those coming together is going to lead us into, finding that truth and working towards reconciliation. So we still have a long ways to go.
Cookschachin, we're going to go for our last question with Levi Landry. I know there was a question about the BC Lions, and I know there was great coverage on that. But so we're just going to stick with Levi Landry and wrap up here. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I'm going to jump back to the election. And first off, I know after the announcement in May 27th, many people were asking Tk'emlúps and other Indigenous communities, what can we do? And so, looking at this election coming up, truth and reconciliation hasn't really dominated the election, possibly to some surprise. So when looking at federal platforms, looking at the debates and other coverage, is there any one party or leader that you believe could be that would best further truth and reconciliation in Canada?
I believe the question is, are you partisan, Cookby?
I think the people want to know.
Yes. Well, what I will share with you is, first and foremost, I did have opportunity to speak with all the various parties. We did here within Secwépemc, and we know that whoever is voted in, that we will be working with them. We know that whoever's voted in will be mandated to, continue this path forward when it comes to reconciliation. And we do know that our voices within First Nations, it's going to be moving forward still. It's still going to be, there's so many issues, what was shared today when we're looking at opioid, when we're looking at housing, when we're looking at the shortage of housing, infrastructures, and, all those different social economic issues that we have on deck. Those need to be advanced. So regardless of whoever is in, they need to be able to continue those dialogues. They need to work towards that path forward. And, whether it's the NDP, the Conservative, or the Liberal. And, we're going to be holding them to account. And, just like our people hold us to account as well. So for us, it's going to be about clearly having those dialogue sessions, continuing that path forward, and advancing them. And regardless, we want to see more action. We want to be included. And there's so much when we look at, racism and discrimination, that could be a whole topic in itself. But it's about inclusivity, and it's about creating that path forward.
Thank you so very much, Cookby. Thank you, everybody who chose to join us today. Again, I want to reiterate that in the press release, you're going to find B-roll assets as well as that direction to the other visual assets. You have the full story for those of you who are a little bit less aware about the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We have included the link to that legislation, as well as why we wear orange and the Orange Shirt Society and all the meaning of Every Child Matters as well is there. We feel free to contact me. We'll just pop my media@kib.ca into the chat. It's also on the bottom of the press release. If you wish to have an individual interview follow-up with Cookby, we will do our best to make that happen. We will we are available for this as well, and I also want to make sure that we will come back to you, particularly for those of you locally and regionally, on any updates on what we're planning for or what we can plan for September 30th. It is in the works. Like I said, this is a moving target that's been is a little bit maddening, but we've all are living with these realities of the limitations of how we look after each other in this time of COVID-19. So with that, I say Cook's thank you so very much for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Please take care. Be safe.